Hey, welcome to the channel. Today we will be looking at a scenario where every single continent went to war. Now, this won't be a while to film. But it might. It just might. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into it. There basically are no teams. Each continent is at war with every other continent. So we'll see who comes out on top. And I included Latin America, which I don't think is going to do that well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, we're going to start in South America. They're pushing a little bit up into Latin America, not too much in, but that eventually calls for a stalemate once they get to Panama City. Again, another one. The purple team's back, and they're back pushing into Guatemala. So they cut off one of their they cut off Guatemala City. So Latin America's going to be taken, but the North Americans eventually capture Haiti and are at a stalemate in the Dominican Republic. But back here, it's they're doing a lot of offense. So really, Latin America doesn't have that much defense, but Latin America eventually falls, and until they have a little bit left. So they surrender, and that's all they have left. And Cuba is on the North American team, as you might be able to see. So that's what it is looking like now. But right now, it's not looking good for Africa right now as they're being invaded. Now, that doesn't last long until the Egyptians eventually stop the Middle Easterns. And they're going to push into Europe very so slightly. And Russia, which I don't know what they're going to do, but they get to pick a side, and they picked Europe, so, because that's where all their capital is. So basically, Russia will kill itself. But that's all Russia wants to be taking from its fellow people. So that's what it's looking like now, because Russia, obviously. So Russia will now be non-existent, or yeah, it's still going to be existing, but Russia will no longer be on the Asian team. And that doesn't go well for Asia, as Africa, oh, that needs to be a little bit lighter, as Africa starts pushing into Asia. Now into Asia, I mean by the Middle East. And while they're keeping the Asians distracted up here, Somalia, Ethiopia side, that's not connecting, but okay. They decide to push in southern, and they want to capture Dubai, which I think would be a really good idea. They want to swipe through, but the Asians barely notice this as they're invading. Until they come through Saudi Arabia. They eventually capture Abu Dhabi and then Dubai. So Africa's not doing that bad until yeah, something's really hurt, you know? When something's going well for you, it doesn't end well. Because all of the Africans are over there, the Europeans can do a lot of stuff here. Including being able to take that whole piece of land. And if you know what I mean, a bunch of European troops just are flooding in. Barely any African troops are noticing it. So Europe has made a huge landing into Africa. Now you may be asking, why is Europe doing so well? I want you to think how many large countries are in Europe and process it. Got your answer? Yeah. So the Europeans are going to try to cut Africa in half. But they're going to need the Asians to help them. And that's exactly what the Asians are going to do. So Asia eventually pushes them back, and eventually Africa is pushed back. And Asia and Europe are starting the push to cut Africa in half. Now, to do this, they're going to need a lot of manpower, which Asia and Europe both really have. That eventually calls for a stalemate, because African troops are now arriving. But that doesn't stop the Europeans from trying to cut Africa in half, and they eventually connect with the Asians. So the whole African area falls to the Asians and Europeans. And you may be thinking, wait a minute. Not wait a minute. It happened, so. So now that half of Africa's like gone, what are they doing now? Well, now that Africa's done, let's head to Oceania. Now, because everybody's over there, Oceania decided to give them a chance on pushing up. That eventually goes successful after they make their naval landing and capturing all of that. And that. Or no, not and that. And that has been captured. So Oceania has been doing pretty good until Asia splits their military. And let me tell you, that did not go well for Oceania. Well, it might have went well until they eventually went to New Zealand, which Wellington and Auckland fall. And now it's basically Australia that's left. And they made it to Tasmania, and then they're going to try to push up the coast to maybe, no, Sydney's like right there, and then it's all populated like over there. But I mean, once the Asians landed on top of over here, they just had to go south, and then they would just visit no man's land, which, let's just say, it wasn't hard to get through. Although they still have Perth to get through, but they're pushing slowly towards Perth. Not really knowing why, but this could be our first continent that falls. Or no, Latin America was. Sorry about that, guys. Eventually, the northern half of Australia is now capitulated to the Asians. And now it just looks like that. But eventually they're starting to push towards Melbourne and Sydney, which goes really well. And then we have the capitulation of Oceania. Now you may be thinking, why didn't Africa go before Oceania? It's because Africa was stronger. Okay. But back to North America. No, they were kind of tired of what South America has been trying to do. But little do they know what they have planned. They have a whole jungle over here. So they just decided to go down the coast and visit an area where it doesn't have that much mountains, which they eventually cut off. And let's just say it falls to the North Americans. There was basically nothing there, but they're pushing up towards Uruguay, which goes successfully, and Uruguay is eventually captured. Now, through the mountains, it's not like they don't have any mountains in North America. So it goes pretty easy until they reach Peru, which Peru has the big mountains. Peru actually has big dunes. So they're kind of slowing around down that until they realize they need to go for one of the Guianas, which would be perfect. So it's basically the Amazon forest left. Now, Brazil said they wouldn't go down without putting up a fight, but that fight is kind of over. Now, we all know South America would not go down that easy. But Europe says, well, Africa would. I mean, they're not wrong, but Africa is decently strong. So I don't know if you want to get too cocky, Europe. Eventually, Europe makes a naval landing, and Madagascar collapses. Europe makes a small advance into Asia, and the capturing of Tokyo happens. And then they start to push down along the coast for the capturing of Seoul. So they captured Seoul, Tokyo, and Pyongyang, and Moscow. But Europe is like, okay, Asia, we were friends until it came to what we have to do. Asia, oh gosh, didn't like that at all because Europe just got a lot of oil. And because they got a lot of oil, then they can't really make any fuel for tanks. But Russia can. But Russia can. So the advance down starts. Goes well until they reach the highly populated areas of China and India. Now let's not get too cocky, Europe. And then Africa falls. Now this won't make any sense in the real world because Europe's not actually strong, but because they had a lot of fronts in Russia, they were able to. So that just happened. New Delhi and a very populated place of Asia just got destroyed. And because of the Madagascar entrance, Asia doesn't know this, but they're pushing up into Australia. So I kind of wanted to experiment what Europe would be like. But it kind of comes down to the last moments of Asia's existence. Because the highly populated area of China just capitulated because Beijing just got captured. And you probably know Europe's not this strong to push through that amount of land in that amount of time. But now we should look at naval warfare that I will be right back with. Sorry for the very bad representation of naval warfare, but this is kind of what it would look like. So eventually the North Americans push in navally. And because of this, somebody gets affected. Yeah, Australia gets affected by the naval warfare and falls to the North Americans. Same with the New Guinea area, and a little bit of Vietnam falls. And because of this, a little speck of land in Africa gets affected by this. So does a little bit specks of land in main parts of Europe. And what I mean by main is that very powerful parts of Europe get affected by this naval warfare. Now, because of this, they like pushing up from the south and Africa, like the whole continent of Africa, is now in the hands of North America. So basically, all of Africa has been affected by it. And that's what it looks like now. Madagascar also gets affected. And as you might know, a peace treaty will come out. And that peace treaty is the purple North American and the yellow European. I didn't want to draw the peace treaty because that would have took way too long. But I thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys.